He hadn't even unzipped his backpack before the cashier waved him away like air. "Sir, we're not serving loiterers right now, only paying guests." He stood still for a moment, not reacting. The kind of stillness that reveals both restraint and calculation. He wore travel jeans, a weather-faded hoodie, a carry-on backpack slung on one shoulder. Nothing about him advertised wealth, power, or status. And that was enough. "I'm here to buy a room," he said, voice low, controlled. The front desk attendant, a woman in her late 30s with the trained condescension of someone who enjoys gatekeeping, leaned an elbow on the marble counter. "This hotel doesn't check in walk-ins without a credit pre-hold. And we don't do holds for..." She scanned him up and down with a smirk. "People who just walked in off the street." People in the lobby turned to look, not because of him, but because of her tone. Her side of the conversation was loud, performative, meant to humiliate. He kept his eyes on hers. "I didn't ask you to assume what I can or can't pay. I asked for a room." She laughed the way people laugh when they think the ending of the story is already guaranteed. "Rooms here start at $489 a night, before deposit. Do you even have a card? Or do you just want to use the Wi-Fi while you charge your phone?" Behind him, a couple waiting to check in snickered. And then, from her left, another co-worker emerged. A thick-built female security officer with a radio clipped to her vest stepped forward. "Is there a problem?" she asked, eyes already on him instead of the employee. The cashier folded her arms. "He's trying to check in with no reservation, no visible card, and he's refusing to leave." The traveler blinked once. "I never refuse to leave. And I didn't say I don't have a card. I said I want a room." Security squared her stance, hands resting on her vest in the familiar posture of false authority. "Sir, if you don't have the means to pay, we can't let you hang around disrupting customers. This is a private property." "I'm not hanging around," he replied. "I'm conducting a transaction." The attendant scoffed. "A failed one." Security took half a step closer. "I'm advising you to exit the property." He exhaled, not out of panic, out of recognition. He had seen this scene before in other places, other cities, played with the same arrogance and certainty. He shifted the backpack slightly and spoke clearly. "I asked for a room. You made assumptions. Now you're escalating based on those assumptions." The cashier rolled her eyes dramatically and said loud enough for the lobby to hear, "Sir, you are not the type of guest this hotel accommodates. Please leave before I call NYPD." That sentence did it. The lobby went cold. Someone near the elevators pulled out a phone and started recording quietly. Security repeated firmer, "Exit. Now." He looked from the guard to the cashier, to the small ring of witnesses pretending not to watch too closely. Then he reached into his backpack slowly. Security's hand flew to her radio. Hands visible. "I'm reaching for my wallet," he said evenly. "Not that it will make a difference." He set the leather wallet on the counter. The cashier rolled her eyes again. "You could have a library card in there for all I care. This isn't." He pulled out a single item. Not cash, not a credit card. Just one thin government-issued identification card. A federal employee ID. He didn't drop it, didn't smack it, didn't perform. He simply placed it on the counter with 2 fingers. The cashier leaned in lazily and then stopped. The shift in her face wasn't subtle. It was electric. Her lips parted but didn't form sound. Because a badge wasn't just a badge. It had a seal, an agency name, and a clearance classification she instantly recognized but had no language for. She looked up at him, different now, like she had just discovered a loaded weapon in her own hand, without knowing it. Security leaned to see it, and her posture changed too. Radio lowered, shoulders deflated, authority dissolved. He finally spoke, voice like a verdict. "You didn't refuse me service because I couldn't pay. You refused because you assumed I was beneath the threshold of this building's respect." Silence choked the lobby. The manager, alerted by the tension, rushed out from the office. "What's going on here?" The cashier tried to speak, but nothing coherent came out. The manager reached for the ID, stopped halfway, realizing he was looking at high-clearance federal credentials, the kind people don't flash unless something irreversible has already happened. He swallowed. Sir, there must be a misunderstanding. The traveler didn't blink. Oh, there is, but it's not mine. The manager glanced at the security guard, then at the cashier, then back at the ID like a man watching his own job evaporate. You refuse service, the traveler continued, based on appearance. You attempted removal without cause, on recording, in a corporate franchise property with federal non-discrimination compliance requirements. The manager stiffened because that sentence wasn't emotional. It was legal and documented. The cashier's voice cracked for the first time. I didn't know who you were. He turned his head just enough to look at her, not anger in his eyes. Something worse. You weren't supposed to know who I am. You were supposed to treat me like a human being. The sentence landed like a slap. In the reflection of the marble desk, you could see the cashier's face drain to white. The manager tried to rescue the situation. Sir, we can absolutely provide a room. We sincerely apologize. Let me comp. He lifted a hand, not aggressive, authoritative. No, you don't get to erase what already happened. Security shifted her weight. Her earlier certainty gone, like a collapsed structure. The traveler picked up the ID, slid it back into his wallet with surgical calm, and set the wallet down again, this time pulling out something else. Not a credit card, not cash, not a reservation. A government-issued authorization envelope with corporate compliance violations printed in black. The manager's knees nearly buckled, because now it was clear. This wasn't just a traveler with a badge. This was someone who didn't need a room to ruin the building. This was someone who could write a report that wouldn't just get employees fired. It could get the franchise sanctioned. And the moment of reversal, the true reveal, had not even happened yet. Not yet, because the worst thing for them was not the badge. But what came next? The manager tried again, voice trembling now, the confidence gone. Sir, if we can just talk in the office. Privately, we can resolve. He cut him off with a single slow shake of the head. There is no private resolution. What happened, happened in public. It will be resolved in public. He slid the sealed compliance envelope across the counter, slow enough that everyone watching understood something catastrophic had just been set in motion. The cashier clasped her hands together, chest tight, whispering to manager, "Do something, please." He couldn't. The security guard finally spoke. Softer now, voice stripped of all its earlier power. Sir, we're just enforcing policy. We didn't mean any disrespect. His eyes shifted to her, steady, unblinking. You didn't enforce policy. You enforced assumption. That line landed. You could hear someone exhale across the lobby. He picked up his backpack, not rushed, not heated, just deliberate. Then he looked at the manager again. This property will be contacted formally. You will receive a federal citation request for review. You will also be required to surrender lobby camera footage within 72 hours. The cashier gasped. She understood the gravity. Footage meant no rewriting, no lying, no deleting. The manager wiped sweat from his forehead. Sir, I'm asking you, as a human being, to reconsider. People will lose their jobs. He didn't flinch. That's the thing you never thought about when you laughed at me. When you dismissed me. When you tried to remove me for existing in a space you didn't think I belonged in. Silence. He turned toward the group of guests staring in stunned stillness. Everyone always worries about consequences after the violation. Never before. He walked away from the desk. The large revolving door reflected his face as he approached. Still calm, still controlled. The manager scrambled from behind the counter. Sir, wait, please. If you just let us make this right. He stopped without turning around. You're not trying to make it right. You're trying to make it quiet. That killed whatever hope was left. He pushed through the glass doors and stepped into the cold New York street. Phones were still up behind the glass. People had filmed everything. By the time he reached the sidewalk, the damage was already alive. The hotel's corporate office received a report. It wasn't a complaint. It was a legal memorandum backed by federal statute citations. Words like documented profiling, unlawful refusal of service, improper threat of removal, federal compliance breach during active DOJ review. The envelope didn't ask for action. It triggered it. Corporate HR arrived in person by noon. The The cashier was fired on the spot. The chubby female security officer was suspended pending federal interview. The manager was placed on administrative leave. The lobby posted a temporary compliance notice on the main door, legally mandated. Employees whispered as the attorney returned one final time. Not for a room, not for revenge, but for paperwork confirmation. The regional corporate director tried to greet him with a practiced smile. "We want to sincerely apologize." He raised a hand again, final, cold. "I don't care about apologies. I care about precedent." He signed one acknowledgement form, stepped back, and before leaving said to the director, "You build a system where people believe respect is optional until they learn who someone is. My job is to make sure that belief costs you something." The director swallowed. There was nothing to say. 2 days later, the video, filmed by a guest, went viral under one caption. He asked for a room. They assumed he didn't deserve one. No sensational edit, no commentary, just raw footage. Comments flooded. This is exactly how profiling looks in real life. They were confident until they realized someone powerful was watching. Justice is when the quiet man is not actually powerless. Corporate PR tried to soften it with a statement. It backfired. Their stock dropped temporarily after boycott calls. Local media covered the suspension. The hotel was placed under monitoring until further notice. Weeks later, the former cashier, now unemployed, sat with a friend at a coffee shop complaining on the phone. "I swear he ruined my life over nothing. If he had just said who he was." She paused, because the woman at the next table, who had been silently working on a laptop, slowly looked up and said, "He didn't ruin your life. He revealed who you were." The cashier froze, throat locked. The stranger closed her laptop, stood, and walked away without another word. Some lessons don't shout. They end you with a mirror.